Well, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the virtual premiere and social impact campaign launch event for All I See is the Future. Let me say that again. All I See is the Future. Thank you for joining us for today's screening and panel discussion. We are so honored to be together to celebrate the official impact campaign for the award-winning short film, All I See is the Future, directed by the amazing Nancy Dionne of On a Threshold Films. It is my pleasure to be here today to moderate this panel for you. My name is Judge Victoria Pratt, and I am the Executive Director at Odyssey Impact. I am the former Chief Judge of Newark Municipal Court. I'm known as a global criminal justice reformer. I just have the fortune to be intimately involved in the development of the social impact campaign that you will hear about today, and that will allow you to be involved in shifting and changing not just your community, but the nation. Today's conversation is so critically important. And what I will tell you is that today, this film and this panel discussion will provide the country with the answer to its complaints about its economic woes. The question of how do we build a vibrant and stable economy for now, for the future, will be answered today. And the answer is by providing training and education to America's human capital, people who should be trained to return and come into our economy, not as a favor, but as our obligation, and why it's so important to the survival of this country. So again, not just will you see compassion, but you will see why it is prudent that we as a country strengthen our economy by doing that which is right. So you will hear about that from all the brilliant panelists I just told you are here. You'll hear about the need for quality education and job training for incarcerated and formerly incarcerated folks returning to communities and returning to us. You'll hear about dispelling the myths about the formerly incarcerated to ensure fair first chances. Challenges that people face during reentry, support for businesses and educators who really want to create opportunities for the formerly incarcerated. And even if you're not a business or an educator, what it is you as a concerned citizen, as a neighbor, can do. And the problem of the extra punitive parole and probation violations that feed mass incarceration, as well as restorative justice. Please note that Odyssey is absolutely committed to accessibility. So you should see a live transcript button below to access closed captioning of this event. And as we are joined by our wonderful ASL interpreters, Brianna Barber and Lavender Signet from Pro Bono ASL. Thank you for being with us, Brianna and Lavender. Thank you so much for making this available to everyone. Odyssey Impact is proud to bring you programming like today's event in collaboration with our valued partners in our incredible network. It is with the support of our friends like you that we continue our mission to drive social change through innovative storytelling and media. We'd like to give a very special thanks to Just Trust for their generous support for this event and the Impact campaign. Thank you for seeing what we saw in the director, Nancy Dionne, as well as what we saw in All I See is the Future, that you made this generous contribution to being able to make this campaign and film available. And so now I am pleased to premiere this 14-minute documentary, All I See is the Future.
She goes, "You're not no optician. Let's get out of here." This is the first job interview I've ever been on in my life.
And so I make up a test on the spot, and he starts to like kind of flounder and fail the test.
When I was young, I didn't aspire to be a professional.
It was something very personal to him that he had to go through that experience in order to be better. It's like a refinement, you know? Like a lot of pressure when you make diamonds.
You have to feed your spirit and starve your flesh. With a little polishing up, with opportunity, the world looks very different.
Wow. It doesn't matter how many times I see this film. I'm teary. I'm emotional. Thank God I got to go off screen to tighten up my face before I got back on. The power of storytelling, the power of seeing the truth. Okay. We are here, as I said, to really get to the answers, to see the truth behind these issues, and how we as a country and how you as viewers can participate and can be active in your communities around these issues to improve where we live. At this moment, I'd like to introduce you to the brilliant panelists and to join our conversation. I'm going to ask them to say a quick hello because their bios are going to be in the chat just to provide additional background. The amazing Nancy Dionne, who is the director of All I See Is the Future.
Hi, Judge Pratt. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bryant E. Pearson, licensed ophthalmic dispenser. I got to go back to license because I have to say that twice. Licensed ophthalmic dispenser and film participant.
How you doing? How you guys doing? Great to be here.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Carolyn R. Powell, the Doctor of Optometry, film participant, also Saint. I forgot to include that.
Okay. Saying I ain't, but I'm happy to be.
Mr. Darrell Sims, the Director of Truth and Transformation Initiative at the Center for Human Rights and Civil Rights. How are you, Mr. Sims?
I'm well. Thank you, Judge Pratt, and glad to be with everyone.
Thank you. Ray Boyd, the Program Manager at the Law and Racial Justice Center at Yale University. Mr. Ray, how are you?
I'm fine. It's an honor to be here with you all today.
Okay. And our special guest, Robert DeLeon, the Executive Vice President at Fortune Society, who's going to give us some really pertinent information as well. How are you, Mr. DeLeon?
Hey, Judge Pratt. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Judge. And thank you to Bryant and Dr. Powell for this moving story.
Yes, sir. We'll want this discussion to be as interactive as possible. So please make sure you're using the comments and adding that and your thoughts and questions to the chat. Please talk to one another and to us, actually. Make sure you're choosing all panelists and all attendees when you do post. As we enter this brave conversation, which is what Odyssey's mission is, brave conversations, please remember our mission is to connect communities, faith, and secular, both faith and secular. So as we create this open dialogue and respectful environment, I'm gonna go back to the respectful environment for all. All questions might not get addressed at this event, so please don't take it personal. It's just that there's so much information to kind of get through. And now on to the panel. Nancy Dionne, congratulations on your premiere. Congratulations on such a beautiful film. Can you share with us what compelled you to tell this story? And what was challenging about making this film and even during screenings?
Sure. I actually met Doc and Brian as a new patient. I was filming on another project and I needed very sudden eye care. I literally Googled eye doctor near me. And Doc happened to pick up the phone and she just said, just come on over here. So when I first saw her, it was love at first sight. And I said to Brian after my exam, like, Doc seems like a superhero. Like, I can't believe what an amazing eye exam I just had, but learning more about her. And he said, oh yeah, you have no idea. You should do a documentary about her. And I said, oh, why? And so there was this pause. And he said, because he was a felon and that she gave him a chance. And that was a very powerful, like, electric charge moment, because then he later told me he had not spoken that before out loud in the clinic. So I knew that the story was actually about both of them. And was he ready to go public with that, and to sleep on it and really consider that? And so later we literally shook hands on it and how the story should be told, and we just went for it. And I would say the only thing that was challenging was that sometimes at screenings, we were both asked questions that were basically like, wait, you're white? Why would you tell this story? So now I actually address this right at the start of any screening, or that of course, like, proper representation is completely necessary and valid. And in this case, it really was purely organic. And I was asked to, and I can't wait for their story to inspire others through this campaign. I'm just so happy you all joined.
Well, I know it's inspired those that it's inspired us already as well. And I can't wait to the message of this story reaches thousands. Ray, I'm going to pull you into this conversation. What resonated with you in the film that connects back to your own story that made you want to be involved in the impact?
Just Brian's level of resiliency to have come off the porch and seen what he's seen and in his community is no different than what we see in any Black and Brown community throughout this country. However, to have a vision of individuals just outside his porch and a desire and a passion to want the fancy cars and everything that comes along with it, even in Stapleton projects. And then to see him acquire all of those things when he got with his right thoughts, that was amazing to me. And even having fallen victim to the system twice, getting rearrested and recidivating, and still coming out with the same passion and the same desire and the same will to succeed in life speaks volumes to his resiliency. I spent 30 years incarcerated, and as a juvenile lifer in the state of Connecticut, and coming out within the 18 months that I've been out, some people are amazed at the level that I've reached. But what I do is not for me, and I'm pretty sure what Brian does is not for him. It's for the relatability, to be able to stand in the place of what success looks like on any level. I'm pretty sure this is a level of success for him, and he wants the young men in his community to see that. And when they come off the porch, see what it looks like to work hard and earn what is rightfully yours, not by ill-gotten means, but putting forth the effort, going to school and educating yourself. Brian is not too much younger than me, but when we look at the trajectory that we were given as young men in life, either dying by 21 or being incarcerated by that age, and coming home and doing that third trajectory that nobody never told us about. Go to school, get an education, and you can succeed in life. And I just commend Brian, and I commend Doc for giving him that opportunity to manifest his dreams and his destiny.
Amen. Now I know everyone, thank you so much for sharing that. I know everyone is now waiting with a bated breath to hear from Dr. Powell and Brian. Why did you choose to share your story? In the film, Nancy talks about, Nancy talked about like this pause. Why did you guys decide to share your story? We're happy that you did.
For me, just like Ray mentioned, it's not about me, and it's about the children and my community that's coming behind me, and the older individuals that were before me, and just showing them the complete picture. A lot of times, often get judged from just a small part of our life, and a time when we was probably ignorant or confused and we made bad decisions. And society don't never get a chance to see the full picture of an individual when he has when he is educated, and he's taking the time to apply himself and his opportunity available for him. In addition to that, Congresswoman Nakima Williams, serving Georgia 5th District, she's addressing the loophole that's in the 13th Amendment, right, that allow individuals to still be punishment with slavery for a crime. And a lot of individuals don't know, in 1865, there were 4 million slaves that were freed. And we currently have 2 million prisoners and Black and brown and Hispanic men and women incarcerated in the United States. So over almost 160 years ago, 158 years ago, we still have half of the people that's considered a slave legally in the United States of America. And then the individual that's on parole, millions on parole, you know. So they develop caste systems and they never really eliminate them. They just change them up a little and continue, because we still have over 4 million people enslaved in this country.
Wow.
So it is important.
Thank you. Thank you. Not for you, but for everyone.
Yeah.
Dr. Powell.
And just take off a little bit from what Brian said. Since the systems are in place, legislation, lawmakers, and everyone has to bear witness to the truth that it has to change. It has to stop. It has to be repaired. And I think that's the reason why Brian's story needed to be shared, so that people could be sensitive to it and then make the changes that are necessary.
Thank you. And this is a good segue for you, Darrin. What resonated with you in the film that connects back to your actual work that made you want to be involved in the Impact campaign as well?
Thank you for that question. And what really resonated with me is, you know, I saw Bryant and I saw people I had grown up with. I had saw men in my family. I had said men that I have met being out in the community, of men who were trying to get their lives back together, because being incarcerated, what we talk about, a very traumatic experience. And not only that, but returning home and realizing that the world sees you differently. And there's this scarlet letter in the form of a criminal record that follows you around the rest of your life. And hearing the pleas of men and seeing, and really the tears of folks who was like, I want to make my life better, but I keep getting told no. And I have been in rooms with men that has been their experience, and the heartbreak in their voices, and not just their voices, because they know what's at stake, and their family is at stake, because there's these stereotypes that, oh, people don't want to work, people don't want to get a job, they don't, or even that, they just want a job. But I use the language of, what is a job that you would like to do? What is a job that makes you happy and is a career? And I just really resonate with the story of like resiliency, because that's never we don't get to see that in real life. And so it was really empowering to see these two people meet organically and try something different, versus what we often hear, and what I hear from employers is, I can't trust people who have been to prison or a criminal record, or I can't, they might, steal, or they might corrupt my other employees, which there's no science behind that. And so being able to see this as a true example of really what the system is supposed to do, allow for people to prepare people to get to create the life they would like to have.
Yes.
And so I really resonate with that at every level.
Thank you. Thank you for that. To make a contribution back to us, to everyone. Absolutely. I'd like to just make sure everyone understands that you are invited to join the National Social Impact Campaign for this film. What that means is that if you volunteer to have a screening, not only will you get access to the film and the screening toolkit resources for free, we will also help you set it up. That means that if you belong to a Rotary Club, if you have a church, if you have a big group of folks that you hang out with, if you're a university, if you're connected to organizations that would benefit from seeing this film, and I'm going to tell you, everyone is going to benefit from seeing this film, we can give you access to the film and the resources to have a conversation. You can even do it virtually. And this is a free impact campaign, thanks to the generous support of the Just Trust organization. So please contact us if you are interested in already taking action. I know most of you are after hearing and seeing this film. Rob, and thank you, Rob, for being so gracious with your time. Rob is in the midst of heavy advocacy and a fight, and he thought it not robbery to be here with us tonight to also get us engaged in what he's currently advocating for. So I know your time is limited. So thank you so much, though, for being here, because I really want people to know what they can do as well. Can you share more about the support offered through programs at the Fortune Society? And can you share with us all about the current situation with the proposed budget cuts for New York?
Sure. Thank you, Judge. So again, my name is Rob DeLeon. I'm Executive Vice President at the Fortune Society. At Fortune, we work with men and women at every touch point of the criminal legal system. And right on par with all of what Bryant said about our system, you'll hear me refer to it as the criminal legal system because we don't see a lot of justice in it. And so every touch point that men and women have with the system, whether it's at the front end, at the point of arrest, during incarceration, where we work with men and women on the inside, and of course, during reentry, we work with folks to help them to reclaim their lives. And the story that Dr. Powell and Bryant tell is so important because one of the main pillars of our advocacy work is promoting successful reentry, or put another way, breaking down the barriers to successful reentry. And so employment is one of those very, very key factors. And I'll just share, a tidbit that nationally, people who've been incarcerated have an unemployment rate that's over 5 times higher than the total population. So that's a 27% unemployment rate compared to a 5% unemployment rate for the total population. And this has impacts on everything from just the humanizing of men and women that have been involved in the system, but it also has significant impacts on public safety. And I want to stress that, and I do, and we do, advocates like myself and folks at the Fortune Society and in other places, that while this work is humanizing, while this work is heartfelt, and while it's very personal to me, and I'll say a little bit about why, but it's also very important to public safety that men and women who have had challenges with poverty, primarily from Black and Brown communities. So this is very much a race thing, the incarceration in this country. Folks who've had those challenges with addiction, challenges with mental illness, they ultimately will re-enter society. So if we and folks can see me on the camera, if we have a criminal legal system where folks that are involved in it is about this big, I'm making a sign with my hands, right? Folks always think of the very far ends, which is, oh, but if you didn't do something so bad, or you're on the very worst end of that trajectory. But the truth is that the majority of the folks that are wrapped up in our system, they fall somewhere in here, in that middle place where ultimately they will be released. And if you don't give men and women an opportunity to work, to be housed, and to take care of themselves and their families, ultimately people have to resort to survival. And so I just wanted to, state that point because of the importance of it. Helping men and women in reentry is as much about public safety as it is about the right thing to do for human beings. And then finally, I'll just touch on the point that the judge mentioned, which is We provide services on Rikers Island. I got a little knack in my office over here. I'm so sorry. We provide services on Rikers Island to us and a collective of service providers. We provide services to about 1,700 people on a daily basis on Rikers Island. So we go into the housing units and we meet with the men and women that are in these units. And, we provide everything from, we'll start with something as basic as hope, but then going into some more concrete things like relapse prevention and some minimal workforce preparation. And we actually do OSHA training and stuff. So in this upcoming budget, there is a proposal to not just reduce those services, but to actually eliminate them. So eliminate those services from Rikers Island, where men and women who are incarcerated there look forward to those services, look forward to be treated by external providers as human beings who have hope, who have potential, who will ultimately re-enter society and be contributors to that society. And so we've been on a serious campaign through media, through social media, with elected officials, many of whom are very supportive of what we're saying. And, this isn't about a budget for an organization. This is about what's right for the men and women who are sitting on Rikers Island. If you watch the news very recently, you know that place has been an absolute humanitarian crisis. And so we urge elected officials, we urge this city's administration to put that money back in. And I'll just cap it by saying that the amount of money that's being cut, which is $17 million, represents about 1.4% of DOC's entire budget, which is less than 1 month's worth of overtime. And so there are more creative ways to realize those cuts, and we need to do what's right by human beings. This isn't about numbers. This is about people. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob. And thank you for sharing that. We will send people to Fortune's website if there's any other actions that they can take, signing petitions, speaking to their actual representatives. But thank you so much for coming and sharing that with us. And thank you for the work that you're doing, that you're about to run off and do for us as we speak. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Dr. Powell, I'm going to jump over to you. And then, Bryant, I'm going to come back to you as well. I'm interested in you talking about your misconceptions, or were there any misconceptions you had in hiring Bryant, and why you decided to give him the opportunity. You talked about climbing out of a hole to improve yourself. But if you could just talk briefly a little bit about that, I think it's important for employers, HR representatives, managers, supervisors to be hearing this when they are thinking about hiring.
Okay, well, I did have a couple of misconceptions because I didn't really know a lot of people that had been or were incarcerated. And then upon release, what the process is to get back into the community, back into your home, back into the workforce. I think that since I'm a small business, if I was a larger corporation or an organization, my human resource department would handle a lot more of screening people that come through and then hand picking the best of the best to be able to work. The challenge for me was that I don't have a lot of those kind of resources available as a minority practitioner, being in the community for the number of years that I've been practicing. I never knew how to practice business. And the business is more corporate bound. And so I think I had a lot more flexibility in selecting Bryant as a candidate on face value, as well as what he put on paper, and whatever knowledge I had concerning an application process was what I utilized to really get the fire under him to give me the information that I needed to end up hiring him.
I heard a great story about I'm sorry, but I heard a great story about your husband being involved once you hired him.
My cousin's being involved in
your
practice.
husband,
My husband
and having
what
to
God
understand,
so,
yes, having to understand that you had to holistically help this young man prepare for going into the workforce.
well, as many people don't know, I've been married since 1985, and I'm a recent widow. My husband passed in October, but him being in the practice, being not licensed, and still being able to provide a service, he could have always stepped up and bid more, but he just, he did what I needed him to do. And then in mentoring Bryant to come in the way he came in and dress, he was a military person. And so he really was meticulous with lots of what he did. And he felt it was his duty to really, give him some pointers in certain things, not only in optics, but in dress, in relationships. And he did a lot to really enhance Bryant's openness to be able to be constructively critiqued and criticized to work in the practice. It's useful.
Thank you. That this idea of bringing the community in also to help you with this process. Ray, what message do you wish people knew?
What message do I wish people
What message would you have, or do you do you wish people would know about hiring people who are reentering?
Well, personally for me, it's less than 1% chance that an individual who has committed a crime that I've committed will reoffend. And I think that's pretty much true to Bryant's situation as well. Like going into prison allows one who truly wants better for himself, one to find himself through introspection and decide what direction they want to go in life. I think the one thing that employers should look at is that one, you're getting someone with a work ethic. And in the Connecticut Department of Correction, I worked in the kitchen for 16 years for 365 days a year without a day off. There's no vacation days or PL days or IL days. So you're getting someone who's established a true work ethic and have put the practice in society. The benefit is to the employee. That gives you the opportunity to succeed in life. And I think if a lot of our employers in the community, even in corporate, if you took a chance at the individual you were hiring, it would be definitely to your benefit and not to your detriment.
Thank you. And Darrin, also as an employer and someone who works directly with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated, what myth would you like to dispel as well?
Oh yes, which myth? Because there are so many.
Give us a really good one. You don't have a lot of time, so give us one we're gonna go home.
Yeah. I was thinking of the one for me is very simple. That a lot of these employees will say we're in a crisis. There are all these vacant jobs, especially coming out of the pandemic. There are all these vacant jobs. We can't hire, but nobody's applying. We don't have a pool of applicants. And I was like, where are you looking? Because I want to just on some data. There are 1 in 3 persons in the United States has a criminal record. I think the data is around 73 million people. So it's a large population of people have this sort of experience. And the idea that we're just overlooking a large portion of the population, that people that want to work, they simply want to work, they want to provide for their families. And yet the narrative is that they don't, that they're somehow lazy or somehow don't have a hard work ethic. And I think Ray just pointed it out with the people I've interacted with are some of the hardest working people I've met in my life. They have the most attention to detail. They have the most type of the teamwork spirit. I mean, truly. And so I truly despair that myth as much as I can. I have to jump in and say one of the issues is that we don't train HR professionals and employers how to accurately look at a person's criminal record. That's a huge issue.
We don't train judges to do it.
Most people have never even seen a criminal record. So you see words like pro se and adjudication. You don't know what those words mean. You don't know. And that the fact you can have a criminal record and have not been to prison, so it's a system that needs major overall And also we have to train people who are in the business of getting people jobs, how to actually work with people in this system, because without it, you know, it's an invisible wall, and they can't see through what they don't know. And so a lot of what I do is helping facilitate that conversation with businesses, with employers, with chambers of commerce on how we can actually make that, you know, bring that number up, bring, you know, people's employment up, because it's, you know, there are people that are waiting on a yes, just like Brian.
And also to understand that, in fact, some of the preclusions to getting licenses or joining unions are about protecting the union and protecting the people in those professions. They have nothing to do with the person's criminal record. It's just that we want to keep this for us, and we want to have less people have access to this. Bryant, I want you to, because you are a truth teller, and I love that you tell the truth so gently sometimes, but it's still the truth. And I want you to talk about the support you wish you had upon re-entering back to society, programs and services you would recommend. But I think that sometimes we have to call ourselves out as faith communities, as secular communities. What did you wish you had coming out? People want to blame folks for violating probation and all those other things, but what do you wish you had? Who do you wish, like, who should have been there? What should have happened as you were preparing to come out, once you came out?
It takes literally the whole nation, right? And then it down to states, then it trickles down to community, cities, and then communities. Because I remember a time I was fortunate because I had I was still with, at the time, my daughter's mother, and she, when I went to prison, she went to college and started pursuing her nursing degree, and so in pursuing that, she accomplished, graduated, became a nurse, but she was ashamed of me and my prison, being in prison and coming home a felon. So she wouldn't really talk to her friends about, or not friends, co-workers, colleagues, classmates about her life. And that caused a lot of depression for her, and embarrassment, and then a lot of issues in our household in general. So I believe we have to teach that we are human beings, and just because most of the time when someone commit a crime, is underlying issues that we need to address. That don't make them a terrible or bad person, right? And I think we need to start looking at each other as human beings, and we all have the ability to be great. So I think it starts with the embarrassment. People come home as second-class citizens, right? And they don't even have the confidence to go on job training, you know, or to even, I have frame reps that come in and just go door to door to local businesses. I always buy a few frames from them because it takes a lot of faith to wake up in the morning and drive with hope, and hoping that you get a job or make a few sales with your purchase. In addition, when I was in prison, I had this one guy come and speak, and his biggest problem is that when people are released, inmates are released, prisoners, men are released, they do not come to his organization and for the services. I took his number and I kept it for 2 years. And when I was released, I went to it was an office in 125th Street, and he was just talking a good one because he didn't have no services lined up for me. So a lot of it is just pushing paper. I haven't seen a real system set up to eliminate recidivism, because people do not have to go back and put a system in motion, whereas people become professionals and be proud of themselves.
And as we kind of wrap up, thank you for that. Thank you. And thank you. You know, it's so interesting to me about you that here you are, a person who is, one would think you're not just getting assistance, but you're assisting. It's like you're giving back while you're getting something. And it's always that. So, and I just thought I wanted to acknowledge that in you. You know, you're like, I'm helping myself climb out this hole, but I'm pulling people up and out of this with me. So thank you for that. As we close, come to a close, and if people have a few more minutes, we're going to be a little bit past 6:30. I would like to start with you, Brian. Any closing remarks? Anything that you want to say briefly that you want people to?
First, thank you guys for this opportunity and for this platform. And I think with this campaign, all I see is the future, social impact and justice and equality. I believe that some great things are going to happen. But just to, in a closing argument, like Ray and the other gentleman was hitting on, Dr. Powell, I remember asking her how much her drawer was making daily. And it was just like a few $100s, maybe $1,000. And once I finished school, and one day she told me a few years later, and she was like, you triple and quadruple my day, you know? So it makes sense in a lot of ways to give people an opportunity.
Okay, small business owners, you heard that, quadruple. Nancy, I'd like to ask if you had any closing remarks you would like to make.
I feel like the work from this impact campaign, and especially the amazing panelists here, can literally help make more superheroes like Doc, and to join Doc. We know that there must be so many more people out there in workplaces, in prisons, schools, wherever. Because look, you have living proof right here of what is possible. So I hope that this can create new systems that foster situations where others can have and give second chances, just like we saw today.
Amen. Ray, would you like to add something and some closing remarks?
Yeah, I like for everyone just to walk away knowing that perception isn't always a reality. And the reality of Brian's situation is what you see today, and how many may perceive him. That's not it's not clarity. It's not how he sees himself. It's not how the world sees himself. Like when he was talking about, you know, he's not a criminal. You know what I'm saying? And that's the world's perception of us when we come home after doing time. We're never seen as full citizens in our communities ever again. Someone is always holding the criminal or ex-convict sign above our heads, trying to let the community know, like, they need to watch out for us. But this isn't the case. I think for men that put their best foot forward and show that effort of resiliency, this is the product that you get. You get a man who's living according to his nature, as opposed to situations and circumstances in life that may have led him to do one wrong incident in life.
A formerly incarcerated gentleman once told a group I was listening to, he says, I tell folks, you know our sins, but we don't know yours. And it was so powerful to the group, because then they started like looking at their, oh, that's like, was it somewhere that people might find out, you know? But I just thought about that, right? Yeah, you know our sins, we know your sins, but you don't know ours. And Darrin, if you could kind of, I'm going to go to Darrin, and then I'll have Dr. Powell close out.
Yeah, if for me, it's really, I would just say there's something for everybody to do in this fight. I'm a campaigner, I'm an organizer, so I'm always like, what is the action step? What do we want people to do? The first thing is always educate yourselves. There are so many resources that exist that really just shine the light of this issue of recidivism. And a term I'm using is, I'm an anti-recidivist. I'm working for any recidivist. So like, what can you read? What are books? What are things you can listen to educate yourself? Who are you listening to, reevaluate your network, where you're getting your biases, your information. And I ask you to challenge those because there are ways to move the needle within yourself first, and then you move that outward with your community. And so I'm definitely plug in with the Impact Campaign and Odyssey, which is always doing work in the community. And yeah.
Thank you. And Dr. Powell, you wouldn't accept my halo, but Nancy gave you a cape. So I'm going to have you close us out with your closing remarks. What do you want to leave us with? What do you want us thinking about?
Well, if I had to reflect on the life of Nancy, using this social impact situation, I need more of it to take place. I need it to be escalated to a higher level, because the prejudice against incarcerated individuals or people that need a second chance still exists. It has not gone away. Laws have to change. It has to go from the top to the bottom continually and be brought into the fabric of the American society so that we can see change and make an impact in every single community on every face of the planet, really, on every surface of the planet, I should say. It's just not United States of America. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's systemic. And I'd like for more of this content to go out and be shared so that people can have conversations and come up with some sort of resolution.
You know, thank you for that. The first page of my book, The Power of Dignity, How Transforming Justice Can Heal Our Communities, I open with, I've been called the judge of second chances. The reality is that most of the people who've come before me have never had a first chance.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me is what's the power in here. We are complaining about giving people a second chance, and we've never even made the first chance available to them. So again, it's not just compassion. It's not we should do this because we're nice. We should do this because it's prudent, because it's the smart thing to do. Did I see your hand go up, Ray? Wanted to say something?
No, I was just supporting your first chance.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really, I've really enjoyed the comments. I really feel people are going to walk away and figure out that they can do something. Like why it's important that your vote matters. Why it's important to go down to City Hall to make sure they have reentry programs. Why it's important that they get monies to help employers bring folks in. Why it's important that the city that you pay your taxes to hires people. All of those things immediately. And if those things that you want don't get done, somebody else needs to sit in that elected seat.
You're absolutely right.
That's how easy it is what I'm saying. That's how easy it is. It's going to make people do what they said they was going to do when you gave them a vote and you gave them money and you did something. So thank you so much, everyone, for showing up. I feel blessed to have been a part of this. I can't wait to see the seismic shifts we're going to see with this.
Yes.
Thank you again. And thank you for all our attention, for being so engaged.
Well, Brian, continue to do great work, my brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. It was encouraging. Thank you.